The American bourbon aisle has never been more crowded, and that is not an accident. Over the past 2 decades, bourbon transformed from a regional spirit into a global luxury product. Distilleries multiplied, labels became louder, prices climbed, and marketing departments learned a dangerous lesson. You can charge almost anything for bourbon if the story is good enough. Today, shelves are packed with bottles promising heritage, craftsmanship, and small batch authenticity, while quietly delivering whiskey that would have struggled to stand out at half the price 20 years ago. Some of the most recognizable bourbon brands in America are not selling quality. They are selling confidence. Confidence that you will not question what is inside the bottle. Confidence that the label, the name, and the reputation will be enough. Today, we are exposing 13 American bourbon brands that consistently drain wallets without delivering flavor, depth, or honest value. And at the end, we will reveal 7 bourbons that actually earn their place on your shelf. Bottles that quietly outperform competitors costing twice as much. Number 1 may permanently change how you buy bourbon, and number 13 survives almost entirely because most people never look past the name. Number 13. Jim Beam White Label is the bourbon that built modern American whiskey dominance while quietly becoming one of the weakest values in the category. Beam traces its lineage back to 1795, making it one of the oldest continuously operating bourbon families in the country. That history is real. What is not real is the assumption that history guarantees quality in the present. White Label exists as a mass-market product designed to be inoffensive, inexpensive to produce, and endlessly mixable. It is aged for around 4 years, often less, bottled at 80 proof, and produced at a scale so enormous that consistency matters more than character. The nose delivers light vanilla, ethanol, and a faint sweetness that disappears almost immediately. The palate offers thin caramel and corn sugar with minimal oak influence and almost no spice. The finish vanishes before the glass leaves your lips. At around $20, it may seem harmless, but the problem is not that it is cheap. The problem is that bourbons costing only $5 to $8 more deliver dramatically more complexity, structure, and satisfaction. Jim Beam White Label survives because it is familiar, not because it is good. It is bourbon designed for people who do not actually want to taste bourbon. Number 12, Maker's Mark, represents one of the most successful branding triumphs in spirits history. The red wax seal became iconic long before the liquid earned that status. Introduced as a premium alternative to harsher bourbons, Maker's Mark built its reputation on smoothness, wheat instead of rye, and handcrafted imagery that suggested exclusivity. What it delivered instead was deliberate limitation. The wheated mash bill removes spice and edge, which can be appealing, but it also removes structure. The result is a bourbon that tastes pleasant, sweet, and round, but fundamentally shallow. At around $35, Maker's Mark competes directly with bourbons offering age statements, higher proof, and far greater complexity. The nose shows soft caramel and vanilla. The palate offers sweetness without tension. The finish fades quickly, leaving little reason to revisit the glass. This is bourbon designed to be liked immediately and forgotten just as quickly. Maker's Mark is not offensive. It is worse than that. It is unambitious, charging premium prices for a profile intentionally engineered to avoid challenge or growth. Number 11. Basil Hayden's is perhaps the most egregious example of bourbon marketed upward while being diluted downward. Bottled at just 80 proof, despite being sold as a premium small batch bourbon, Basil Hayden's delivers some of the weakest concentration in its price tier. The brand leans heavily on refined imagery, copper fonts, and heritage language to justify prices hovering around $45. What you receive instead is a bourbon stripped of intensity to appeal to casual drinkers who want prestige without power. The nose suggests light oak and spice that never materialize fully. The palate feels watered down because it is. At 80 proof, there is simply not enough structure to carry flavor. Comparable bourbons bottled at 100 proof for $10 to $15 less deliver exponentially more character. Basil Hayden's does not fail because it is low proof. It fails because it charges premium prices while delivering entry-level substance. Number 10. Jefferson's Reserve built its identity on innovation and experimentation, particularly ocean aging. Barrels sent around the world on cargo ships made for compelling marketing. What did not make for compelling value was the base bourbon itself. Jefferson's Reserve relies heavily on sourced whiskey, often young, finished or aged, in ways designed to distract from its lack of depth. At prices ranging from $40 to $60, consumers are paying for processed stories rather than intrinsic quality. The flavor profile is serviceable. Vanilla, oak, mild sweetness, modest spice. Nothing stands out. Nothing justifies the premium. Ocean aging may change whiskey, but it does not automatically improve it. When the base liquid lacks maturity and complexity, movement alone cannot create depth. Jefferson's Reserve sells novelty at prices that demand substance. Number 9, Four Roses Small Batch, occupies an uncomfortable middle ground between genuinely excellent bourbon and mass-market compromise. Four Roses, as a distillery, is capable of extraordinary whiskey. Their single-barrel and barrel-strength releases prove that conclusively. The problem is that Four Roses Small Batch coasts on that reputation while delivering a diluted version of what the brand can actually achieve. Bottled at 90 proof and priced around $35, it lacks the intensity and definition that make the distillery special. The nose offers floral notes and gentle spice. The palate is balanced but restrained. The finish is short. It is not bad bourbon, it is disappointing bourbon, especially when better expressions from the same producer exist for only slightly more money. Four Roses Small Batch survives by association, not by performance. Number 8, Woodford Reserve perfected the art of appearing premium while delivering middle-of-the-road bourbon. The bottle is elegant. The marketing emphasizes distillation science, copper pot stills, and Kentucky tradition. The price, often around $40, suggests refinement. The liquid inside delivers consistency, not excellence. Woodford Reserve is meticulously engineered to offend no one and excite almost no one. The flavor profile is clean and balanced. Caramel, cocoa, oak, mild spice, everything is present, nothing dominates, and nothing lingers. For the price, bourbon drinkers should expect either intensity, age, or uniqueness. Woodford Reserve offers none of these. It offers polish, and polish alone is not worth the premium. We are only getting started. The next 5 bottles climb even higher in price while leaning even harder on mythology, scarcity narratives, and perceived luxury to justify what is ultimately underwhelming whiskey. Number 7, Blanton's Original Single Barrel is the bottle that taught America the dangerous lesson that rarity automatically equals quality. Introduced in 1984 as the first commercially marketed single-barrel bourbon, Blanton's deserves credit for innovation. What it does not deserve is its modern reputation or secondary market insanity. Retail prices hover around $65 when you can find it. On the secondary market, bottles routinely sell for double or triple that, and none of it is justified by what is in the glass. The bourbon itself is aged between 6 and 8 years, bottled at 93 proof, and drawn from Buffalo Trace's warehouses in carefully selected barrels. The nose offers pleasant notes of orange peel, caramel, and light oak. The palate delivers honeyed sweetness, mild spice, and a smooth mouthfeel. The finish is clean, but short. This is good bourbon. It is not great bourbon. It is certainly not transcendent bourbon. The problem is not quality. The problem is value. Bourbons costing half as much deliver equal or greater complexity. Blanton's has become a status symbol rather than a sensory experience. People buy it to display it, not drink it. And bourbon that exists primarily to be photographed has lost its purpose. Number 6, Buffalo Trace. Maybe the most controversial inclusion on this list, but its presence here speaks to expectation versus reality. Buffalo Trace is widely praised as an unbeatable value bourbon at around $30. And years ago that was true. What changed was not the recipe. What changed was availability and perception. As demand exploded, shelves emptied, prices crept upward, and Buffalo Trace quietly became a bottle people hunt rather than evaluate. At its core, this is a solid, approachable bourbon. Sweet corn, caramel, light spice, and gentle oak dominate the profile. It is balanced and easy drinking, but scarcity has inflated its reputation beyond what the liquid supports. When consumers pay $40 or $50 on the secondary market, they are no longer buying value, they are buying hype. Buffalo Trace is good bourbon priced and treated like great bourbon, and that gap matters. Number 5, Knob Creek Small Batch reflects the consequences of dilution in pursuit of broader appeal. For years, Knob Creek stood as a benchmark for full-flavored 9-year-old 100-proof bourbon at a reasonable price. Then the age statement disappeared. The proof remained, the flavor softened, and the price stayed the same. What once represented honest transparency became strategic vagueness. Modern Knob Creek small batch varies widely in age, often dipping closer to 6 or 7 years. The nose remains rich with peanut, oak, and caramel. The palate still delivers weight and sweetness. But compared to earlier releases, something is missing. Depth has been traded for consistency. At around $40, drinkers are paying for a memory rather than a guarantee. Without an age statement, the bottle asks for trust without offering verification. Number 4. Angel's Envy is bourbon finished in port wine barrels and marketed as refined luxury. The bottle is elegant. The branding is minimalist. The price sits comfortably around $50. What you receive is bourbon softened by finishing, sweetened by wine influence, and stripped of the structural backbone that defines great bourbon. Finishing can enhance whiskey. It can also conceal shortcomings. In this case, it does both. The port finish adds red fruit sweetness and a silky texture, but it also blurs the bourbon's identity. Oak, spice, and grain character take a backseat to confectionery notes. For casual drinkers, this is pleasant. For bourbon enthusiasts, it feels incomplete. At its price point, Angel's Envy competes with bourbons that deliver both sweetness and strength without relying on secondary casks to do the heavy lifting. Number 3. Weller Special Reserve is perhaps the most inflated bourbon in modern America. Once an overlooked wheated bourbon selling for under $25, it became collateral damage in the cult of Pappy Van Winkle. As demand for anything associated with that lineage skyrocketed, Weller Special Reserve was swept into the frenzy. Retail prices rose, secondary prices exploded, and the liquid never changed. Bottled at 90 proof and aged for around 6 to 7 years, Weller Special Reserve offers gentle sweetness, light vanilla, and soft oak. It is approachable and smooth. It is also thin, simple, and short-lived on the palate. At inflated prices, it borders on absurd. This bourbon does not improve because people want it more. It remains exactly what it has always been, a decent wheated bourbon that should never cost more than $30. Those are the 13 bourbon brands that rely on name recognition, scarcity narratives, and marketing polish to justify prices their liquid cannot support. Now comes the part most people never hear. The 7 bourbons that quietly deliver honest value, transparency, and flavor without demanding attention or status. Number 7 among the worth drinking list, Evan Williams Bottled in Bond is one of the greatest embarrassments to overpriced bourbon on the shelf. At around $20, this 100 proof, 4-year minimum, federally regulated bourbon delivers more structure and authenticity than bottles costing 3 times as much. Heaven Hill produces it under strict bottled in bond requirements, guaranteeing age, proof, and single distillery origin. The nose opens with caramel, brown sugar, and toasted oak. The palate delivers spice, vanilla, and grain with authority. The finish is warm, balanced, and honest. There is no mystery here, no mythology, just bourbon doing exactly what bourbon is supposed to do. Number 6. Old Forester 100 Proof continues the theme of transparency and value. Produced by Brown-Forman, this bourbon adheres to bottled in bond style standards without carrying the designation. At around $25, it delivers richness, spice, and structure that many premium bottles lack. It is versatile, dependable, and unapologetically bold. We are approaching the bottles that redefine expectations entirely. The final 5 will expose just how unnecessary premium pricing has become in American bourbon. Number 5 on the list of bourbons actually worth drinking, Wild Turkey 101, is the bottle that exposes just how misleading the word premium has become in American bourbon. At around $25, bottled at 101 proof, and produced by a distillery that has never chased trends, this bourbon delivers more flavor, intensity, and identity than most bottles twice its price. Wild Turkey 101 does not pretend to be refined. It does not need to. It is confident in what it is. The nose immediately announces itself with bold caramel, charred oak, vanilla, and baking spice. The palate is rich and muscular, delivering toffee sweetness, cinnamon, clove, and a deep oak backbone that anchors the experience. The higher proof carries flavor rather than heat, providing structure that cheaper bourbons lack and premium ones often dilute away. The finish is long, warming, and unmistakably bourbon. Wild Turkey 101 succeeds because it refuses to compromise. It is bourbon made by people who understand that flavor matters more than image. Number 4. Old Granddad Bottled in Bond is a bottle most casual drinkers overlook and most experienced bourbon drinkers quietly respect. Produced by Beam Suntory and bottled under strict bottled-in-bond regulations, this bourbon delivers high rye spice, structure, and clarity for around $25. It is not smooth in the modern marketing sense. It is expressive, assertive, and honest. The nose offers sharp rye spice, citrus peel, and caramel. The palate delivers pepper, cinnamon, vanilla, and toasted grain with energy and precision. The finish lingers with warmth and spice that remind you this is whiskey meant to be tasted, not merely consumed. In blind tastings, Old Grandad bottled in bond routinely outperforms bottles costing twice as much. Its plain label hides a liquid that refuses to apologize for being bourbon. Number 3. Four Roses Single Barrel represents what happens when a distillery actually allows its best product to reach consumers without excessive manipulation. Bottled at 100 proof and typically aged between 7 and 9 years, this expression showcases the complexity Four Roses is capable of when not restrained by mass-market compromises. At around $45, it competes directly with premium brands and routinely defeats them. The nose delivers floral notes, ripe fruit, baking spice, and oak in layered harmony. The palate is structured and vibrant, offering honey, rye spice, vanilla, and a firm oak backbone. The finish is long and evolving, rewarding attention rather than disappearing quickly. This is bourbon that improves with contemplation. It is not rare, it is not hyped, it is simply excellent. Number 2, Russell's Reserve 10-Year is bourbon for people who care more about maturity than marketing. Produced by the same distillery behind Wild Turkey, this expression carries a real age statement that actually matters. 10 years in oak transforms bourbon in ways younger whiskey cannot replicate. At around $40, Russell's Reserve 10-Year offers depth that many luxury brands never achieve. The nose opens with leather, toasted oak, dark caramel, and vanilla. The palate delivers mature sweetness balanced by spice and tannin, showing restraint without weakness. The finish is dry, long, and contemplative. This is bourbon that tastes like time. No finishes, no gimmicks, just patience. When consumers pay premium prices for bourbons without age statements, bottles like this expose how unnecessary that gamble really is. Now we arrive at number 1, the bottle that quietly dismantles nearly every premium bourbon argument in existence. The bottle that proves price, rarity, and marketing are poor substitutes for substance. Number 1, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is the bourbon that makes expensive shelves look absurd once you understand what it delivers. Produced by Heaven Hill and released several times a year, this uncut, non-chill filtered bourbon carries age statements typically ranging from 11 to 12 years in proof levels that vary by batch, often landing well above 120 proof. And despite this, it routinely sells for around $70, sometimes less. The nose is explosive. Dark caramel, molasses, oak char, vanilla, dried fruit, and baking spice erupt from the glass. The palate delivers immense concentration without chaos. Sweetness, spice, oak, and alcohol are balanced through sheer maturity rather than dilution. The finish is long, powerful, and endlessly evolving. This is bourbon that demands attention and rewards it generously. What makes Elijah Craig Barrel Proof devastating to the competition is not just its flavor, it is its transparency. The age is stated, the proof is honest. Nothing is hidden, no water is added to chase smoothness, no finishes are used to distract, no mythology is required. You are paying for time in a barrel, not time in a marketing meeting. When bourbons costing $100 or more offer no age statements, no proof advantage, and no demonstrable superiority, bottles like this expose the truth. Luxury pricing has become disconnected from production reality. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof reconnects that reality in a way few brands dare to attempt. Once you understand what $70 can buy in this bottle, the entire bourbon aisle changes. The glass shelves, the velvet boxes, the wax seals, the scarcity narratives, all of it begins to look exactly like what it is. Noise. The 7 bourbons worth drinking do not ask for trust. They earn it. They deliver flavor, structure, and honesty without demanding allegiance or status. They remind you that bourbon was never meant to be a luxury product. It was meant to be a well-made American whiskey, accessible, bold, and honest. Most bourbon brands are not bad. They are simply overpriced for what they deliver. And once you stop paying for the story, you can finally start paying for the whiskey. By the time most people reach the end of the bourbon aisle, they are not choosing whiskey. They are choosing reassurance. Reassurance that the bottle they picked will not embarrass them. Reassurance that the name is familiar. Reassurance that the price signals quality even if they cannot taste the difference themselves. That is the environment modern bourbon brands depend on: confusion, insecurity, and the assumption that expensive automatically means better. The 13 bourbon brands to avoid did not get there by accident. They got there by understanding psychology better than production. They learned that consumers rarely compare value objectively. They compare labels, they compare stories, they compare what they have heard other people say. When bourbon becomes a lifestyle accessory instead of a sensory experience, liquid quality stops being the primary driver of success. Jim Beam White Label thrives because it is familiar. Maker's Mark thrives because it feels handcrafted. Basil Hayden's thrives because it looks refined. Blanton's thrives because people cannot find it. Weller Special Reserve thrives because of association with something else entirely. None of those factors make bourbon better. They make it easier to sell. That does not mean those bottles are undrinkable. It means they are mispriced relative to what they deliver. And in a category as competitive as American bourbon, mispricing is the quiet tax most drinkers pay without realizing it. Every time you spend $45 on a bottle that delivers $30 worth of performance, you are subsidizing marketing, scarcity theater, and brand maintenance rather than production. The 7 bourbons worth drinking reveal the opposite approach. They rely on transparency, proof, age, and consistency. Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond, tells you exactly what it is. Wild Turkey 101 refuses to dilute its identity. Old Grandad, Bottled in Bond, does not apologize for spice. Four Roses Single Barrel demonstrates what a distillery can achieve when it stops holding itself back. Russell's Reserve 10-Year proves age still matters. And Elijah Craig Barrel Proof dismantles nearly every premium argument with nothing more than time, proof, and honesty. These bottles are not perfect. Perfection is not the point. Integrity is. They respect the drinker enough to let the whiskey speak without distraction. They do not require secondary markets, velvet bags, or exaggerated origin stories. They require only patience in the barrel and restraint in pricing. Bourbon culture often frames exploration as climbing higher shelves. Better bourbon is assumed to live above eye level, behind glass or in locked cabinets. The truth is more uncomfortable for the industry. Better bourbon often lives on the lower shelves, wearing plain labels priced modestly, waiting for drinkers willing to ignore noise and taste carefully. Once you recalibrate your expectations, scarcity loses its power. Smoothness stops being the goal. Marketing language becomes easier to decode. You begin to recognize when a bottle is selling an idea rather than a product, and suddenly the bourbon aisle feels less overwhelming and more honest. The next time someone insists a bottle is worth chasing simply because it is hard to find, ask a simple question: what does it actually deliver in the glass that a readily available bottle cannot? Most of the time, the answer is nothing. Difficulty of purchase has replaced difficulty of production as the signal of value. That shift benefits brands, not drinkers. Bourbon was never meant to be mysterious. Federal regulations already define what it must be. Corn-forward mash bills, new charred oak barrels, minimum aging requirements. There is no magic beyond those constraints, only choices. How long to age, how much to dilute, how honest to be about sourcing, how aggressively to price. The brands worth drinking make those choices in ways that respect both the whiskey and the consumer. The brands to avoid make them in ways that respect the balance sheet first. And once you understand that distinction, bourbon stops being confusing. It becomes logical. You do not need to chase. You do not need to overpay. You do not need to believe every story printed on a label. You need only to recognize what real value looks like when it is poured into a glass. The most dangerous lie in bourbon is not that expensive means better. It is that you need permission to trust your own palate. You do not. Taste honestly. Compare widely. And remember that some of the best American bourbon ever made is still sold at prices that feel almost accidental in today's market. When you find those bottles, keep them close. Not because they are rare, but because they remind you why bourbon became popular in the first place. Bold flavor, honest production, and value that does not require explanation. Once you experience that, the rest of the aisle reveals itself for what it really is: noise.